point of bounding is you're still getting that negative foot strike. You're still pulling. When you bound, you're still pulling your hamstrings. You're pulling with your glutes. And the reason why you're doing this is because you're strengthening your glutes and your upper hamstrings, and you're letting get that negative foot cycle and your actual legs. So this is more of a strengthening type of a drill. It's also going to warm you up really well, but the whole point of it is to actually get your muscles activated to be able to start running. So the good news is I talked to you guys, I explained to you the difference between power bound and speed bound, which is really good because there's no way I'd be able to demonstrate the difference of them in this room. But speed bound, we talked about how in sprinting we use our adductors, our hamstrings, and our glutes. And speed bounds help develop your hip flexor, and this is when your hip extends forward and you get that toe off, remember? Now speed bounds, you don't want the toe off, but you want to still get that full hip extension through, and it also teaches the actual correct type of cycling. Because cycling, think about like an actual bicycle, that type of running is incorrect. You want to think more of an elliptical. And why? Because we don't want anything to go backwards. So what speed bounding does is it keeps every single thing, it still gets you that big extension that you want out of your hips, but you're not, the reason why you're not coming off is because you're not going backwards at all. You're staying nice and you're getting off the ground and you're getting that big bounding. So shorter than drill, develop stride frequency, and front side mechanics. That's the one that I talked to you guys about. If you have a workout, you're doing just 10 meters shorter. And the reason why you're doing that is you're just trying to get your body to get nice front mechanics, and you're trying to practice getting that frequency without getting that full extension. Lunges. So the thing about lunges, they are so important, and I would suggest putting lunges into your curriculum, like a lot. Do a ton of lunges, do it with every single thing. Have them warm up with lunges, have them work out with lunges. Always doing lunges. It does so many good things for you. It helps with acceleration, with flexibility, stride length, like muscular endurance, hip mobility, flexible mobility, static strength. Static is holding still, and dynamic is moving. So when you're statically strengthening and you're dynamically strengthening, you want both. You don't want one or the other. So especially when we're talking about stretching, so there's two different types of stretching. There's dynamic stretching and there's static stretching. Static stretching can be like this, right here. That is static stretching. Now, if I wanted to make that same exact stretch dynamic, I would touch my toes and I would come back up. And I would touch my toes and I would come back up. Now, both are very important, but both are very different. Dynamic stretching wants to be done while you're warming up. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to start to get your body used to movement. So when you're stretching, your body's getting used to being able to move, so that when you're actually moving, that's the type of stretching that you want to prepare for. Whereas static stretching is also very important because it increases all over health, all over flexibility, but it's a really good option to cool down with because you're no longer going to be doing a ton of movement, and so you can really focus in on an area without having to move it around. So when you hear people say static stretching is bad, it's not necessarily bad, but when you're actually going to start working out and you're warming up, you really do want to stick to the dynamic stretching, and now you know why. So long hills, stair workouts. Obviously, we talked about speed endurance, but longer stair workouts are brutal and so important for strength endurance as well as speed endurance. We need to get all in, especially with jumping. I would say if you have a lot of jumpers and sprinters and you want them to work out together, stairs and stadiums and all that kind of stuff, that is beautiful work that they can all do because it benefits everybody. And if you guys have any questions about any of these, let me know. Or if you need any clarifications, then absolutely we can clarify. I can clarify anything. So strength circuits. Okay, circuits are my absolute favorite, especially plyo circuits and strength circuits. So strength circuits can be, you can combo plyometrics and strength together. I gave you guys a bunch of different options to do like a plyo circuit. So like with a plyo a circuit, we'll move this box. Just to open it over here so I don't hit my head. Okay, oh, you guys are fine. I'm just gonna jump on here. So I'm gonna give you an example of like a little circuit. So let's say that the circuit is, we're gonna do 5 box jumps. So we do box jumps. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna talk about, ooh, it's very echoey over here. Okay, I'll be extra careful.
Not another foot, yeah.
All right, I don't wanna worry you guys. Okay, so I'm actually gonna talk about, are box drills on there? No, okay, I'm gonna talk about box drills really quickly. So, the thing about box drills is you can have your athletes that are like, oh, I can get really high and all that, but if your athletes are getting high and landing like this, box too high for them. So you need to have the lowest that you want to have your athlete land is about like this. And and the reason why is because the whole point of promoting a box drill is to get that explosion and the control. And if they are exploding and having to reach up and getting all out of control, their knees are gonna get all wonky, their hips are gonna get all wonky, and the purpose of the box drill is, yes, explosion and getting high, but you can still get high on a box and have control, right? I could have easily grabbed a box, got high, and really reached for it, but instead, I still got my big explosion, but I had control. And teach them that because coming from personal experience, I mean, I was like the most competitive person in the whole place, and there was a point where we had a box that was 42 inches. It wasn't high enough for me, so I started loading up plates on top of it, weight plates, and I was like, I got this. And I did it, but it was just like, watching videos back of me doing stuff like that, it's like I had cuts all up on my shins, and like I had to stop working out for a week because of it. It's so silly. So you just gotta tell them, like, the whole purpose of box jumps is not to test your jumping ability, it's to, and yes, this box would be too low for me because I need to also challenge myself to get control and have a higher risk. So you wanna try to find a box that's challenging for them, but that they can still maintain control. So for like for straight circuit, so we do box jumps, and then we come down and we have med balls, and we can do med ball slam downs. And you want to try to create 2 different things. You can either do opposites type of a thing, so I did legs and then arms, but both are explosive, or I can do legs and legs. But you want to be consistent in what you're doing. So on a day that you want to do a full body, you can do legs, arms, legs, arms with all of your plyos. Try to pair at least 2 in a row of legs, at least 2 in a row of arms. So you can do push-ups and then pair them with slam balls. And you can do box jumps and pair them with overhead backs. Okay? So so when you're pairing straight circuits, it's really important to ask yourself, what muscle is this exercise using, and how can I complement that muscle to be explosive? So let's say that we're doing squats. Whenever I do any sort of like heavy squat, I say, okay, what muscle am I using right now? I'm using glutes and hamstrings, a little bit of quads. So, okay, how can I make this movement that's really slow and powerful, how can I make it quick? Because I need to apply this, because if I'm just slow and powerful, it's not gonna help me at all. So how can I make it quick? So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll do 5 box jumps. And then I'll go back and do my squats again. And I paired those 2 together. Then we do bench press. We're doing bench press, and I say, okay, bench press is using your pectoral muscles and these muscles. I don't want to do something like pull-ups with them, with bench, because pull-ups are also slow, controlled. So I'm like, all right, I want to make this explosive. So I can either do like this, one of those, or if you want to make it even more applicable, especially to your throwers or your heptathletes, you can put the ball in your hand here, you can turn your hip, and you can go up against the wall and do.
Oh, better not do that.
The thing is like, there was a part of me that was like, don't do another one. And then I was like, no, I'll do another one. That is coming in this room. Jeez Louise. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one.
Football
Okay,
did that, football did that.
yeah, true. Yeah, who did that? It's really embarrassing for them. Alright, so in and outs. We talked about in and outs a little bit before, but the whole point of in and outs is really teaching your kid to understand how to breathe better in your running, how to control their body while they're running, how to understand, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm floating, now I'm sprinting, kind of just give them a little bit more body awareness. Hurdle hops and straight leg hurdle hops. So when they say straight leg hurdle hops, we don't literally mean, that seems like it's like I'm going over a hurdle hop straight leg. Actually, that might be what I mean by that. So those are with mini hurdles, if that is that. And that's all lower extremity ankle movement. So you do little tiny hurdles. You can also have them hop over, just like hop over lines, like draw lines in the track and just have them hop over lines. It's not that big of a deal, but it's all ankle movement. Just boop, boop, boop. And what that is getting is that's getting all those lower extremities to really fire and be in control. You don't want to overdo those, just be careful with those. Don't put too many of that really like poundy on the ground like that with shin splints and stuff like that. You just want to be, I just think that high school kids especially are just so prone to shin splints, so I try to be as careful as possible with those. So I would say like when you're doing something really poundy, I would say stick to it like once a week if you guys are starting to, and like just ease it in every day like a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Just be a little bit more aware of that. And then, yeah, single leg hurdle hops also are, I think what she means by that. So let's see. So that's what they mean. You can have hurdles lying down and you just hop over them like this. And that's developing hip flexor muscles. It's also developing your hamstrings, helping you get your snap downs and everything. Or if you just have one hurdle, you can just back and forth and switch it. And also hurdle mobility. We didn't bring the hurdle, huh? You were like, do you need the hurdle? And I was like, nah. But somehow I needed med balls to put holes in them all. So with the hurdle drill, I'm gonna go over a little bit of hurdle mobility because I think hurdle mobility is actually really important. And I've done it every single where I go, from high school all the way up to now. So hurdle mobility, you can do single leg step overs. So you're stepping over the hurdle, your hips are really tall, and it doesn't really matter about actual form here because we're really just trying to do mobility. In fact, like I try to keep my hips tall, and that's really the only thing that I really focus on, because if I really try to yank around and like be really active, I feel like I always like tweak something. I'm always like, oh, my knee hurts now. So with these, just all that it is just be really tall and get over the hurdle. Now, once you do that, you can do single leg, right leg only, and then left leg only. You can do alternating, so you're stepping over every single one. Does this make sense, or are you guys just watching me do nothing? Okay, cool. And then let's say, so you have a small hurdle, tall hurdle, small hurdle, tall hurdle, small hurdle. Does that make sense? So these are called over-unders. So you go over one, and then this same leg that came through is stepping down, and you're going underneath the hurdle, and you're coming back up. You're stepping over the top of the small hurdle, you're going underneath the tall hurdle, and then you can do it with the other stick. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Hurdles, anything else? That's like the gist, and you can, the thing that's fun about those is you can kind of just like, you can make it so you're going over two, back one. You can make it a little bit more endurance work, you can make it a little bit more strength work, or you can just have it be like a warm up, just kind of, as long as your hips are tall, that's like the most important part. So, let's see, sand routine. So a lot of everything that I do in the sand is always barefoot. So you're not, I try not to go too aggressive in the sand. That is how my fiance tore his meniscus. So he tore it twice, and they were both had to do with the sand. So I try not to do, plyos are really good, but I try really hard to be as careful as possible. They're in your bare feet so that they're nice and easy, nice and simple. The best thing for sand drills is if you have a sand pit and you just do a march. And notice a march does not have a negative foot strike. The only part that we're talking about with a march is we are just trying to get our hips tall. That's the only thing that matters. We haven't hit negative foot strike yet. The foot is coming straight down, and your hip, once the foot comes straight down, your hip follows it. So when I first went to college, I thought I was doing all the drills right, and it was driving me crazy that I wasn't doing the drills right, because I was doing them, and this is what I was doing, like this. And my coach was like, Shari, you're not doing them right. And I was like, yes, I am. And what I was doing, if you might not notice, but did you guys notice that difference?
Sure.
So I was just really relaxed here, and I was down, and I was like, my chest is tall, and I'm good, but what he wanted was this, that extra hip extension, because that helps you. The hip extension gets you, this is backwards mechanics, always. When your butt's sticking out like this, you're always gonna be doing backwards mechanics, even if you don't wanna be. Even if you wanna be up here, because you'll be running like this. You gotta run like this, so you have no other option. So you gotta try to get your kids to tighten up their hips. And the thing that helped me when I was in college is I just pretended that like there was somebody was pulling my belly button up, and so like I would always just practice walking like this, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have the best abs at the end of this, because I felt like I was always just clenching my abs, and that really helped me. So that's something that is like number one important. I probably should have done this slide presentation first, because it's so important to have your hips tall when you run, when you do anything, and that's why AWOCs are so important. So when you have them, when they don't know why they're doing AWOCs, be like, I'm not teaching you this just because I want you guys to just start marching forever. You're not learning anything if your hips are back. All I want you to do is I want you to keep your pelvis forward, your hips forward, and I want you to feel your body pushing you. It's almost like you're being pulled forward. And I haven't even done any negative foot striking. And my body's already being propelled forward. And that's what A march does. I don't know if okay, so I'm gonna go over the rest of the A march, A run, A, B run, all that in a little bit, but I'll go through the rest of this first. So sand routines, when you do sand routines and stuff, that's a really good one, is doing all the drills in the sand. It's gonna help strengthen their Achilles muscles, to help us strengthen their ankles and their knees and all of those. So my coach, so this year was the first year I've ever done this. Usually when track season starts, we start right away with tons of running. And it's like, this is fall training, we're really getting it hard. And then in like a month, you're like in shape and you're like, oh great, this is awesome. And then injuries start rolling in. And you're like, I was just getting in shape and now I'm all injured. Well, this year, we didn't even run for 6 weeks. All we did was, we did those sled drags that I told you about, remember this? We did sand drills. We did a ton of these on the grass. She was just building up all those little tiny, teeny tiny muscles, and then we started lifting. And so we lifted, we did those teeny tiny muscles, and she was just like, all right, now you guys are ready to be in good mechanic positions. You guys know how to run. Now let's start getting in shape. And then we started running a little bit more, and now we're in the point where, okay, you guys have gotten your endurance